Ohio State Representative Seth Morgan.
I understand I'm on a short time frame. Hey, Paul. Because the Dayton cops are going to charge us if we don't get out of here. Can we raise a little money to make that happen? All right. I just got more time, Rob. Good evening, Dayton, Ohio. I'm so proud to be here tonight and so humbled to be here tonight at the same time. I was invited to speak in Columbus.
Yeah, but at least he's making
and I said, why would I take second best? I'd rather be here in Dayton, Ohio. Hey, let's give a big round of applause to Perry and Rob for putting this together and everybody else who did it. My job is to get you riled up just like everybody else has, and I think I have the toughest job because you guys have to leave on my note, and Greg couldn't set me up better. I stand here tonight not as a Republican or a Democrat. I stand here as an American. I stand here as a citizen of the great state of Ohio and a citizen of this community, Dayton, Ohio. Furthermore, I stand here as a patriot. And before you think I'm arrogant, I say that without a hint of arrogance, because indeed, I don't think I'm qualified to compare myself to the men and women who stood up for freedom in the 18th century. But I also doubt that the people who poured tea over the hulls of the ships in Boston, or the decision makers up and down the East Coast during 1773, viewed themselves as patriots. No, indeed, all they were doing was standing up for principle, and they were defending their hope of a brighter future. They hoped for a future where freedom, bordered by a respect for law, a focus on personal responsibility, and a respect for absolute authority reigned. They hoped for an economic system that allowed success and failure and rewarded hard work. Through their tireless efforts and taking on odds that were beyond imaginable, they succeeded in securing a future for their children and countless other individuals who would find their ways to our blessed shores from all over the world. Their efforts birthed a melting pot of individuals. Hear, hear. And oh, how these individuals came. They came from Europe. They came from Asia, Africa, and beyond. And our country, through its love of freedom, created an opportunity for all. And its opportunity for all generated an economic boom and wealth driven by hard work, frugality, and ingenuity. I believe this gathering and all the others around this country are a resurgence of this patriotic spirit. Is it? I trust I'm standing here tonight among patriots, patriots who love their country more than they love themselves. Is that not the true meaning of tonight? Is that not the true meaning of being a patriot? And was that not the true meaning of what our founders did that night in Boston? The dumping of the tea in Boston that night, folks, wasn't about destroying tea. It was about securing freedom for America. I trust you also know that the dumping of the tea that night wasn't about taxes alone. It was about freedom. Matter of fact, what led to the rejection of tea up and down the East Coast was something many of us conservatives would be proud of. It was the elimination of red tape. Let me remind you, the colonists were big consumers of tea. The East India Company, a major importer of tea at that time, was required to first sell their tea through middlemen in Great Britain. The East India Company would have to pay a duty to the middleman prior to making their tea available for purchase to the colonies. In order to help the financially struggling East India Company, Great Britain proposed their own bailout. Great Britain proposed removing just for the East India Company, their requirement to sell the tea through the middleman. What that meant was that East India Company would have an effective monopoly on the tea market in the colonies, and the colonists would have cheaper tea. Win-win for some, right? But that's not what the Patriots
Oh, that one around there.
They would have cheaper tea, but they would have it all while sacrificing their dream of a future that relied on a free market that was not unnecessarily and artificially controlled by a massive central government. Let me ask each of you, is your patriotism larger than your pocketbook? Is your commitment to our future and our free way of life bigger than your personal desires? Is your commitment to freedom about you? No. Or is it about freedom for each of us?
See how ugly I look.
If our president wants shared sacrifice, let it begin in the tradition of our founders and forefathers. Let it be the shared sacrifice of taking our economic lumps and paying for the sins of our economic past and our electing poor political leadership. Let it be by allowing our economy to work through this difficult time and normalize itself, free of artificial and short-sighted governmental interference. Shared sacrifice abound. Let it be in the quiet giving of ourselves, of our money, of our time for those people who are less fortunate. Let it be in the right size even of our personal spending. And let it be in sacrificing the material things that we need a little less of.
It's supposed to be a 75-minute battery.
But God help us all if our shared sacrifice is determined by a government 500 miles away and light years more away out of touch. A government that is intent on spending incredible amounts of money for some really incredibly unimportant things, like Acorn. Some incredibly unimportant things that sometimes have been lobbied for by our quote-unquote leaders. Let's not fool ourselves. Government waste didn't just start. It's been with us through Republican and Democrat administrations. By the way, if you haven't figured it out already, our form of government wasn't really designed to be efficient. Our government was created to support a deliberative and slow process. Why, you might ask? Because the founders knew what each of you know, that a runaway government is a government that will run over us all. Does this mean we shouldn't work to find or force our politicians to work towards increased efficiency? Not at all. But we should stress that efficiency is important, bound by the built-in restraints of a good democratically elected republic. Our markets should be bound by responsible laws that provide a fair playground for businesses and individuals to compete. Our markets are competitive. They are built, and when operating correctly, they force the efficiency we seek. Our government not only can't operate efficiently, we really don't want it to operate efficiently, as the most efficiency would come from a top-down dictatorship. Now, that might be what some president wants, but it's certainly not what I want, and I know it's not what you want.